My wife said she was saving our catering business. She said the late-night tastings, the last-minute hotel meetings, and the expensive bottles of wine were the price of keeping our company alive. She was really using the business we built together to pay for a man I had never met. My name is Daniel Mercer. I was 44 years old when I found out that the woman I had trusted with my marriage, my home, and every dollar our company earned had been living a second life inside the books of our own business. My wife, Nicole, and I owned Mercer Table, a small catering company outside Minneapolis. We did weddings, retirement parties, corporate lunches, charity galas, and the kind of backyard celebrations where somebody's aunt always cried during the toast. I handled the kitchen, staffing, vendors, permits, loading schedules, and everything that had to go right before guests ever saw a plate. Nicole handled clients. She was good at it too. She had the kind of smile that made nervous brides relax and difficult executives feel like they were the most important people in the room. When we started Mercer Table 11 years earlier, it was just the two of us, a borrowed van, a used commercial oven, and a folding table in the back of a rented kitchen. I cooked through the night. She built a client list with a laptop, a phone, and a confidence I honestly admired. By the time everything went wrong, we had 9 full-time employees, a small prep kitchen, 3 delivery vans, and enough recurring corporate work to believe we had finally made it. We were not rich, but we were stable. We paid our people on time. We knew their kids' names. We bought birthday cakes when someone had a baby. We gave a dishwasher named Luis a second chance after he got clean, and 2 years later he was running half our banquet prep. That mattered to me. Mercer Table wasn't just our business. It was the proof that Nicole and I had built something together. At home, things looked ordinary. We had a small cedar-sided house in Edina, not far from the kitchen. We had a 14-year-old daughter, Paige, who played goalkeeper for her school team and pretended not to care whether we watched her games. We watched every one. Nicole and I had routines: Sunday coffee on the porch when the weather allowed it, takeout Thai food after big Saturday events, quiet arguments about laundry, taxes, and whether we were working too much. Normal marriage stuff, or what I thought was normal. The first thing that changed was Nicole's wardrobe. It sounds small now, almost embarrassing. But when you've been married long enough, you learn a person's patterns without realizing you've learned them. Nicole had always dressed well for clients, but practical. Dark slacks, comfortable shoes, a blazer she could throw over a blouse when she had to inspect a ballroom or walk through a hotel loading dock. Then, about 8 months before I found out, she started buying clothes that didn't make sense for tastings. Soft dresses, high heels, delicate gold jewelry. She began keeping a makeup bag in her car. She started wearing a perfume that smelled like warm amber and orange blossom instead of the clean citrus scent she had used for years. The strange thing was, she never wore any of it for me. One Friday night, I was finishing a tasting menu for a wedding client when Nicole came into the kitchen around 6:30. She was wearing a black dress I had never seen before. It wasn't inappropriate, it was elegant, simple. But it was not the kind of thing anyone wore to test miniature crab cakes in a fluorescent conference room. I remember looking up from a tray of smoked salmon crostini and saying, "That's new." She smiled at me. "You like it?" "I do." "Good," she said. "I've got a difficult client tonight. I need to look like I know what I'm doing." I laughed a little. "You always look like you know what you're doing." She came over, kissed my cheek, and for a second I caught that new perfume. Underneath it, there was something else. Not another perfume. A man's cologne. I told myself it could have been from a client, a hotel lobby, a hug from somebody's husband at an event. That was what trust does. It gives innocent explanations before your mind is ready to give you the truth. Nicole got home after midnight. I was asleep on the couch with the television on low. I woke when I heard her set her keys down. "How was the tasting?" I asked. She paused. "Not long, maybe half a second. But it was enough." "Fine," she said. "They loved the menu." "Which client was it?" Her face tightened just slightly. "The Halverson Group." I nodded as if that meant something. It didn't. I knew every major client we had. I knew their allergies, their contracts, the names of their event coordinators, and which corporate assistant would call me directly when a vice president suddenly decided the menu needed to be vegan. There was no Halverson Group. I didn't confront her. Not that night. I wish I could say it was because I was wise. The truth is, I was afraid she would explain it away before I had enough proof to know whether I was crazy. So I went to the office early the next morning. Our office was a small room above the prep kitchen. One window. One metal filing cabinet. a desk that still had a burn mark from the first year we opened. Nicole and I both had access to the business accounting system, the vendor folders, the client calendar, and the expense reports. I wasn't snooping through private messages. I was reviewing the books. At least that was how I justified it to myself. I pulled up the past 6 months of client-tasting expenses. At first, nothing jumped out. There were wine purchases, specialty meat orders, rental fees, linen samples, charges from local restaurants where Nicole sometimes met couples before they signed contracts. Then I searched for the Halverson Group. Nothing. No contract, no invoice, no deposit, no proposal, no client intake form. But there were expenses. 6 restaurant charges, 4 hotel parking charges, 2 charges from a boutique hotel downtown, 1 invoice for a private dining room, all marked, Client Tasting Halverson. My hands started shaking. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen while the kitchen downstairs came alive. I could hear pans hitting counters, a delivery van backing up, Luis calling out an order. The normal sound of people trusting that their workday was going to be ordinary. And upstairs, I was looking at the first crack in everything I thought I knew. I printed the reports. Then I called our bookkeeper, Mara Ellis. Mara had been with us for 6 years. She was in her late 50s, sharp as a paper cut, and completely incapable of pretending she hadn't noticed a problem. I asked if she could come in before lunch. She was there in 20 minutes. Mara sat across from me, reading the reports without speaking. She wore reading glasses on a chain around her neck and a gray cardigan that somehow always smelled faintly like peppermint tea. When she finished, she took off her glasses. "Daniel," she said, "how much do you know?" That was the moment my stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Mara looked at the closed office door. "I thought Nicole had told you." "Told me what?" Mara folded her hands over the papers. "I've questioned some of these charges before, not the personal ones directly. I asked whether the Halverson account was still active because the deposits never came through." "What did she say?" "She said you had a verbal agreement and didn't want it entered into the regular pipeline yet." "And you believed that?" "No." Mara didn't say it cruelly. That almost made it worse. "Why didn't you come to me?" "Because you and Nicole are married. And because business partners who are married can make an employee feel like she's stepping into a private fight." She slid another page toward me. It was a vendor report I had never seen. The fake tastings weren't the only expenses. There were rideshare charges late at night, flowers from a shop near the hotel district, a men's clothing store, a small jewelry purchase, weekend room charges categorized as staff lodging. There were also payments to a consulting company called Northline Events. I had never heard of Northline Events. "Who owns this?" I asked. Mara looked at me for a long moment. "I don't know, but the invoices all have the same approval signature. Nicole's." I stared at her name on the screen, her neat, confident signature, the same handwriting I had seen on birthday cards, school forms, and the first lease we ever signed for our kitchen. Nicole Mercer, managing partner. That afternoon, I told Nicole I was going home early. I didn't. I parked 2 blocks from the boutique hotel where the fake tasting charges had appeared most often. I hated myself for being there. I hated the way my heart raced every time a dark sedan turned into the driveway. I hated that some part of me still wanted to see nothing. I wanted to be wrong. At 7:18 p.m., Nicole's car pulled in. She got out wearing the black dress from the night before. She wasn't carrying menus, no food samples, no wine bag, no laptop, just a small leather overnight bag. She checked her reflection in the car window. Then she touched her lips with a lipstick I had never seen in our bathroom. She looked happy. 5 minutes later, a man walked out of the hotel. He was maybe 48, tall, silver at the temples, dark coat, the kind of man who moved like he expected doors to open before he reached them. Nicole saw him and her entire face changed. She smiled in a way I had not seen in a long time. Not a polite smile, not a business smile. It was private. He reached for her bag. She let him take it. Then he leaned down and kissed her. I didn't need to see more, but I stayed. That's the part people don't understand unless it has happened to them. You don't walk away when your world breaks. You sit there, frozen, and watch it happen again because your brain keeps demanding proof that it is really your life. Nicole put her hand against his chest. He said something that made her laugh. Then she touched the side of his face like she had done it 100 times. Maybe she had. They went inside together. I waited in my car for almost 2 hours. At one point, I saw a server carry a covered tray toward the elevator. Then another employee brought up a bottle of champagne. Paid for by my company. Paid for by the business that employed 9 people. Paid for by the work I had missed birthdays, games, and holidays to build. When Nicole finally came out, she had changed. She was wearing the same black dress, but her hair was loose now, her lipstick was gone, his hand rested at the small of her back as they walked to her car. She looked relaxed, like she had just spent the evening somewhere she belonged. I drove home before she did. I made tea I didn't drink, I sat at the kitchen table in the dark and listened to the refrigerator hum. At 11:43, Nicole walked in. She stopped when she saw me. "You're still awake?" "Yeah." Her eyes moved toward the clock, then back to me. "Long night?" The client had questions. "The Halverson Group?" Again that pause. "Yes." I looked at my wife. I thought about the hotel suite, the champagne, the way she had smiled at that man, the bag he carried for her. Then I said the only thing I could manage. "I hope you got the contract." She smiled. "I think I did." The next morning, I called an attorney. Her name was Rachel Kim. She specialized in small business disputes, ownership transitions, and family businesses that had become legally complicated. I told her only the facts. I had found unusual expenses. I believed business funds had been used for personal purposes. My wife and I were equal owners. There was likely an affair involved. Rachel did not tell me what would happen in court. She did not promise I would keep the company, the house, or anything else. She told me to preserve records, stop making assumptions, avoid accessing private accounts, and protect the business from further damage. "Your employees did not create this problem," she said. "Don't let them become collateral damage." That sentence gave me direction. I met with Mara and an outside forensic accountant named Stephen Bell. Stephen was quiet, methodical, and had the kind of patience that made you believe he could find a missing dollar inside a snowstorm. He reviewed the books. We found false client tastings. We found hotel rooms labeled as vendor meetings. We found personal gifts coded as client retention. We found payments to Northline Events. And eventually, we found out who owned Northline Events. His name was Martin Vale, the man from the hotel. He owned a small event consulting company that did almost no public business. But every month, Northline billed Mercer Table for strategic hospitality consulting. The work descriptions were vague, the invoices were nearly identical. No deliverables, no client reports. No signed agreements. Just money leaving our business. Money going to him. The affair was not a mistake. It was a system. Nicole created fake tastings. Martin created invoices. Mercer Table paid for meals, hotel rooms, wine, transportation, gifts, and weekend trips disguised as business development. The more Stephen found, the clearer it became. They had been doing it for almost a year. But the part that hurt most wasn't the number. It wasn't even the hotel charges. It was the notes. Nicole had attached client-style notes to several fake tastings. They were supposed to document feedback on menu options. Instead, they were little pieces of their private life, hidden in plain sight. "He prefers the bourbon glaze. Book the corner suite next time. No meetings after 10. He likes it when I stay. Bring the black dress." I read that last one 3 times. The black dress. The dress she had worn while telling me she was saving our business. Rachel advised me not to confront Nicole until we had completed an initial review and secured operational access. So that was what I did. We changed approval rules for company payments. We required 2 signatures on new vendor agreements. We moved payroll access to Mara and me. We notified the bank that no new credit line could be opened without both owners present. We did it quietly, not to trap Nicole. To keep Mercer Table alive. Nicole noticed within 2 days. She came into my office around 4 in the afternoon, still wearing her client face. "Why can't I approve an invoice?" "Which one?" "Northline Events." I looked up slowly. "What exactly does Northline Events do for us?" Her expression didn't collapse. Nicole was too practiced for that. Instead, she leaned against the doorframe and crossed her arms. "They help with high-end corporate strategy." "For which client?" "Several. Name one." She looked at me then. Really looked at me. "What is this? I'm asking about an expense. You don't suddenly care about invoices." That hurt because it was partly true. Nicole had always handled the sales side. I trusted her. I stayed in the kitchen, solved staffing problems, fixed broken ovens, and assumed the person I loved was protecting the same thing I was. Trust is not stupidity, but it can make you slow to see the knife. "I care now," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "Did Mara say something?" "Mara didn't have to." "Then who did?" "The invoices did." Nicole stared at me. For a second, I saw fear. Then it hardened into anger. You went through my work? Our business. You're accusing me of something? I'm asking you to explain why our company paid Martin Vale almost $40,000 for consulting that doesn't exist. Her face went pale. Not because I said affair. I never had to. I said his name. Daniel? How long? She looked away. It isn't what you think. You were at the Granville Hotel last Friday. Her mouth opened. You wore the black dress. You charged dinner, champagne, and parking to Mercer Table under a client who doesn't exist. And then you came home and told me you were saving the business. Nicole sat down in the chair across from my desk. Suddenly she looked smaller than I had ever seen her. I didn't mean for it to happen. That is not an answer. It started as networking. Did the hotel suite start as networking too? She closed her eyes. Martin understood me. There it was. Not an apology, not a confession of harm. The oldest excuse in the world. He understood me. I nodded. Did he understand that the people packing vans downstairs depended on this company? Did he understand that Luis's rent, Mara's health insurance, and our daughter's college fund were not part of your private life? Nicole started crying. I was lonely. You were lonely? You could have told me. You could have asked for counseling. You could have told me you were done. But you used our employees' work to buy hotel rooms for another man. I was going to pay it back. With what? She didn't answer. Did he ever plan to leave his wife? Her silence answered that too. Martin had told Nicole what men like him always tell women who are useful to them. That his marriage was complicated. That he was almost done. That she was different. That he could not wait much longer. Meanwhile, his invoices were paid on time. I told Nicole she needed to leave the office. Not the house, not that day. The office. Rachel had prepared temporary operating terms. Nicole would retain her ownership interest while everything was reviewed, but she could not approve payments, sign contracts, or access financial accounts alone. She called me controlling. She called me cruel. She said I was trying to take away the business she built. Maybe that would have broken me once, but I had the invoices in a file on my desk. She had already been taking it away. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. Paige knew something was wrong, even before we told her. Kids always know when the temperature changes inside a house. Nicole moved into the guest room. I slept badly. I worked too much. I tried not to let the kitchen staff see the panic I carried around like a second body. But Mercer Table stayed open. We catered a school fundraiser, a wedding at a lakeside venue, a retirement party for a nurse who had spent 40 years in an emergency room. Every time a plate went out on time, I felt something steady inside me. I was still here. The business was still here. Martin tried to contact me once. Rachel forwarded a message from his attorney. It said he denied wrongdoing and wanted to resolve any misunderstandings privately. I almost laughed when I read it. There was no misunderstanding. There were invoices. There were false client records. There were hotel charges. There were dates, signatures, and money trails. Nicole eventually admitted more than I expected. Not because she wanted to be honest, because the numbers left her nowhere to hide. She admitted that Martin had been one of her first high-end prospects. He had taken her to dinner after a meeting. He had complimented her ambition. He told her Mercer Table was wasting her talent. He called her Nikki, a name nobody in her real life used. She liked that. He made her feel young, chosen, and separate from the exhausted woman who went home smelling like kitchen smoke and worried about payroll. Their relationship became a series of rituals. Thursday nights, the same downtown hotel, the same wine, the same private room when it was available, the same black dress. She told him details about our home, our arguments, my habits, and our daughter's schedule. Things that belonged to our life. Things she handed to him like gifts. When she told me that, I expected rage. Instead, I felt tired, bone-deep tired. Why did you stay? I asked her. She looked at me for a long time. Because I was scared to lose everything. I nodded. You did lose everything. You just made sure we lost it with you. We did not have one dramatic final dinner. There was no public scene. No screaming in a restaurant. No revenge post. No video sent to strangers. I refused to turn our daughter, our employees, or our company into weapons. Nicole and I separated. The legal and financial process took time, like those things do. I will not tell you it was easy or perfect. It wasn't. But after months of negotiation, independent valuation, and more paperwork than I thought one human being could survive, I bought Nicole out of Mercer Table. The company stayed open. The first day after the agreement was final, I went to the kitchen before sunrise. It was February. Snow was stacked along the alley behind the building. The heat was barely working. Someone had forgotten to turn off a radio in the prep room. Louis was already there, trimming herbs. He looked up and said, "Morning, boss." Nothing dramatic, just 2 words. But I had spent so many months feeling like I had failed everyone. That morning, those words nearly broke me. I stood there in that old kitchen, listening to the refrigeration units hum, and I realized something. Nicole had betrayed me. Martin had used us. The business had been damaged. But it was not dead. A year later, Mercer Table was smaller. Cleaner, too. We stopped taking events that stretched us too thin. We updated every approval system. We hired a new client director who understood the difference between charm and accountability. Paige still lived with me most of the time. She still played goalkeeper. She still pretended she didn't care when I came to her games. But once, after a win, she walked over and handed me her muddy gloves. "You coming to dinner?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Where do you want to go?" She thought for a second. "Somewhere normal." So we went to a little diner near the rink. We ordered burgers. We laughed about something stupid on her phone. We sat in a booth under bad lighting and talked about nothing important. And it was the most honest meal I had eaten in a long time. I used to think betrayal meant someone took your life away from you. Now I think it means they reveal which parts of your life were built on a lie. Then you decide what is worth rebuilding. Nicole chose a secret life. Martin chose to profit from it. I chose the people who showed up before sunrise and did the work honestly. I chose my daughter. I chose the business we had almost lost. And eventually, I chose peace. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments what would hurt more, the affair itself or discovering that your shared business had been paying for it. And if you want more stories about betrayal, truth, and rebuilding, subscribe for the next one.
Clock strikes, silence wraps the room. A gentle breath, memories bloom. In corners where laughter used to spill, you linger here, you always will. Yeah.
Curtains drawn, the sunlight spills on me, tracing lines you left in quiet honesty. Words unspoken, pressed in dust and air. Soft echoes, marking everywhere. Yeah.
Heartbeat steady in the hush you made.
Caught between retreat and the parade, I find myself replaying every scene, every little whisper in between.
You are the thunder in a sunlit haze, the taste of coffee at the break of day. Still I wear your favorite jacket, walk familiar alleys, looking for laughter we used to chase.
I couldn't bother living.
She steps in, painted in autumn tones, speaking truth in melodies grown. Her words a shelter from the gentle rain, wishing I could go back there again. We made mistakes tied up in time, but every fall felt worth the climb. When comfort wore your cologne and smile, a moment's warmth that stays a while. You are the thunder in a sunlit haze, the taste of coffee at the break of day. Still I wear your favorite jacket, walk familiar alleys looking for laughter we used to chase. Can you find me through the window where memories wait?